I could name it all too. I could go Ingwe Malmsteen, I could go Vinnie Moore, I could go Gary Moore, I could go all the way down the line. But this man is a very fantastic, this is a legend in drumming that we're also happy to be involved with this evening. And thank you so much for coming on behalf of Steve's Music, Yamaha Drums, ProMark 6, Remo Heads. Just quickly to mention, the drum set that this man is playing this evening is it's about a $1,400 drum set. This is a very inexpensive drum set. We are very proud of it, and Tommy said that he liked it enough that he would give it a play. So this is very inexpensive from this shell, and we're very proud of this product. So at this time, we're going to be doing a few giveaways after the show. So hang out and we'll be talking, and we'll be doing some autograph signing over here if you're a big fan. And I hope I'm not speaking too fast. And again, I thank you again for coming out, and would you please put your hands together for Mr. Tommy Aldridge! Yeah! Microphone!
Thanks, we got a DOA up here. I don't know what's going on. Can we get 3 or 4 more guys up here? We can torque down a few things, put the Vulcan grip on the stuff so it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, man!
I thought we did this beforehand. That's okay, guys. It's cool. Everything is falling is going to fall. Thank you.
Go!
Bonjour, Montreal, one of my favorite cities. Thanks so much. It's cool, guys. It's cool. It's really fun. Thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you guys and ladies. I can't believe there are ladies here.
No shit, man. We like you.
Whoever brought a lady, had a lady that was willing to come here, you should marry her tomorrow. Anybody that's going to come to a drum clinic to see my scrag ass on Monday night deserves to be married immediately. I want to thank Sean Brown and Yamaha for putting up with me so far. I want to thank Lincoln and Ruby and everybody that's taking care of the kid, or acting like they are. And I want to thank you guys, most of Montreal. I've been coming up here for my whole career. I remember one of the most memorable times I played here was when I was with Ozzy, with Randy Rose, and Randy Rose was playing. And I just got a call from Sharon, Ozzy's manager, a couple of days ago, and gonna do guitar player is doing a 20-year anniversary of Randy's death, so I'm gonna do a little say a little something in the magazine on Randy's death. I can't believe it's been 20 years. Time really flies when you know what the hell you're doing, doesn't it? But thanks so much from Mama and Heart for coming out. I thank God, I thank my Lord Jesus for making it possible. I'm such a blessed man, I can't believe it. You know, it just spins me out every day. I thank God every day for astounding amount of blessings that He showers upon me daily. But having said that, I'll give just a little quick synopsis of my how I got started and why I do some of the silly things that I do. Mostly I don't really know, it just kind of comes out. But I started as a kid, you know, a kid of a boy with a pair of sticks. And am I not speaking loudly enough? Yeah, you can turn it down just a little bit, Gavin, thank you. With a pair of sticks and a book of rudiments, and trying to work my way through the rudiments, and got relatively far. I think I got about the 22 or 23rd rudiment. And then my mom had found someone, a local guy who was raised in southern Florida, a teacher, so I went to him and he asked me to play something, so I sat down on the practice pad and started going through the rudiments. He said, "That's really good. Can you try this?" And he put this funny looking contraption up there that went back and forth like this. It's called a metronome. I'd never seen one. And all of a sudden he said, "Could you play a double stroke roll now?" So I played a double stroke roll. I could stay with it for a while, but after 8 or 10 bars, I had no problem staying with it. And I said, "Oh, that's what this is all about. It's about time." I had no concept of time. I thought drums were, I guess like most young kids, every young kid wants to be a drummer. And they find out how much work it is, and poof, a stitch it up. But I went home, and it deflated my ego quite a lot because I was ahead of most of my friends that were aspiring drummers at the time. There weren't but a few of us in my small town, Gainesville, Florida. And but that really kind of deflated my ego a bit because I had to start from square one with single stroke roll, playing with the metronome at all different 2 tempos. And that was one of the best lessons I was ever taught. It was one of the few lessons I was taught. But it's when I first learned about patience, or started learning about patience, and when I started learning about the challenge of this instrument. And contrary to popular belief, it's not the easiest instrument on the planet to play. I don't know any homosexuals that play drums. I don't know, excuse me, I didn't mean to say that. I don't know any dumb people that play drums. I think those guys are the keyboard guys or maybe guitar players, I'm not quite sure. But the drummers, I know there aren't any guitar players here, so I don't have to worry about that. I can talk about all the other secondary instrumentalists, No, I'm just kidding. But it got really challenging because every young kid wants to get all the shiny stuff and just start slamming away and having a good old time. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of background and training involved, And it's very tedious learning all the rudiments. Most of you are probably drummers, so you know. And it's the building blocks, it's the language of our instrument. And so as I progressed on the rudiments, I was lucky enough to get a snare drum. Taught my mom to help me buy a snare drum, a bass drum, and a hi-hat. And I started very early on trying to apply the rudiments to the kit. And early on in my career, before I was really ready to be playing anything other than a snare drum. But since I'm self-taught, I went at my own speed. I didn't have someone say, "Oh, you can't do that, you can't do that." So I was able to start that pretty early on. And as time went by, I started hearing things in my little noggin, and it's not much bigger now, it's a very small brain. But I started hearing little things in there that I couldn't actually articulate on one bass drum. So I just started messing around and tapping around on the floor and stuff, and like taking a 5-stroke rough, like how I was playing it at the time was right, left, kick drum, right, left, kick drum, where I'd go right, kick, left, and that boom, like most people play a 5-note rough these days. Well, I wanted to play a 5-note rough a little differently, so I started messing around, putting 3 of the notes on the feet, and and it sounded heavier and bigger. Instead of Pee Wee Herman, it sounded more like Conan, you know, and it accommodated me more emotionally. It was louder and bigger and fatter. And being, I'm 5'10" and a half, and I weigh 139 pounds, so I'm always trying to find ways to sound bigger, you know what I mean? So as time went on, I explored more and more to that. And mind you, I didn't hear some of this stuff. I heard somebody else playing this stuff and run home and try to work it out. It was just little ideas that I had in my mind that I was trying to articulate. And that's what sparked in me my interest in 2 bass drums. And so I started playing 2 bass drums very early in my career before it became fashionable. I know now it's not very fashionable. You're supposed to have a double pedal with a single kick. You know, I tried that and I started talking with a lisp after about 8 bars, you know. So, but I prefer 2 bass drums because it feels better. It feels both sides feel the same, and I have a little kid at home that I practice on with a single bass drum and double pedal, but it's just more out of practicality. But anyway, as time went on, I started delving more and more into it, and I was able to get another bass drum. So I had a hi-hat, a snare drum, and 2 bass drums. And so I spent a good part of my formative time behind the kit on that configuration. So just naturally, you're going to lean, instead of going around the toms or something to do a fill, you'll find a way to do a fill inside the kit, with the backbone of the kit, the snare and the kick drums and the hat. Excuse me, should I give you this?
No.
Okay.
No, shit, no. No, thanks.
And I was able to find ways to play things in a way to express myself that I felt was a little bit different than I had traditionally heard. And so I kept getting more and more into it, and started slowly adding to the kit, and was able to further articulate some of those ideas all around the kit. And I would just take maybe put 2 notes on the feet and 3 notes on top, and I'd spread it all around. I would do figures where playing a 16-note, a 1-bar 16-note fill, and I would spread it around where I'd start with 2 on the bass drum, do 3 on the snare or toms, go around and do 5 on the bass drums, and then finish it off the remaining 16th notes on the rest of the kit. I'll give you a quick example of that. You may want to kill this mic, Kevin, when I
Yeah, man.
usually have love locks on me, so like that example I just told you. Here's another way to do it.
What's better? That's better.
Do the 4 on the bass drum. The second one, the first one, was improving 5. Playing time. 4, one with the quad. Genetics play a bigger role in that than anything. And what I quickly learned to do, because before I went to 2 bass drums, I was playing a lot of double stuff on 1 kick. And when I started doing some of the figures like I just played on 2 bass drums, I had a habit of going do, like if I was going to do a 5-note rough, I'd go right, left, snare, right, left, snare. Or a 4-note rough, right, left, snare. Well, I learned pretty quickly that if I single stroked it, instead of doing 2 notes on 1 foot and 1 on the left foot, I wasn't limited to how fast I could play double notes on one foot. So then I learned the only rudiment that I really ever play on two bass drums, which is the most simple rudiment there is, which is single stroke roll. And everything that I've played in here tonight has been using one rudiment on the bass drum, and that's a single stroke roll, 8th notes or 16th notes. And so it was tough to get out of that habit of playing a double on one foot and a single on the other. And if you do that, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're taking away the advantage of having two bass drums, because you're still going to be able to play a 16th note figure as fast as you can play, as fast as you'll be able to play two notes on one foot. And I'll give you an idea of something like, say, the 5-note glove. And I get a lot of things from guys, single bass drummers, and I don't know why there's a little resentment sometimes from single bass drummers, and I always refer to guys like John Bonham and Jonathan Mover and guys like this, and those guys were amazing with one bass drum. I'm just so thankful that John Bonham didn't play two bass drums. My Lord in heaven, what would he have done if he had another bass drum up there? It would have been, I mean, it was scary enough as it was. But if he would have had two bass drums, we would have all been a Crab Creek and a chicken wire kayak, if you know what I mean. Because what he could play on one, imagine what he would have done if he had applied that same way of thinking and that same process to two bass drums. Because it's a matter of physics, it's just like drumsticks. If you could play with one what you could play with two, then there would only be one to a bag, you know, why bother with the other one? And so when John Bonham came out, Led Zeppelin came out, all these ideas that I was telling you about early on, they really kind of solidified and made me feel like I was going in the right direction, because he was doing a lot of things. I heard the same parts that John Bonham had played before, but I had heard drummers playing them on different part of the kit. John Bonham was going doing a triplet between the left hand and the right foot, two notes on the bass drum and one on the snare hand. Well, what had been traditionally played before that was that same figure of triplets, threes, but doing the snare drum. So it's the same part, he just assigned it to a different part of the drum kit, a part of the kit that wasn't traditionally used that way. And it sounded heavier and it sounded bigger and it just sounded mondo, you know. And I guess of any single drummer that I grew up listening to, I was inspired more by John Bonham probably than any other guy. Mitch Mitchell was one, Ginger Baker, some of those guys. I don't play anything like them, and I didn't spend much time emulating them. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I think that's part and parcel of learning how to play any instrument is stimulation when you initially start. But they inspired me more than anything, and I think it was the coup de grace was when I heard John Bonham play, and that really solidified a lot of the ways that I was thinking. And I thought, well, yes, well, it can be done this way. You can play drum parts in ways that aren't traditional or orthodox and get away with it, you know. So that's essentially what I've done, and it's what I've spent my career doing. I mean, there are drummers out there. I'm not a very technical drummer. I've enjoyed an extraordinarily long career in a business that cuts them tragically short. So I guess I've maybe stumbled across some of the right things to do along the way, you know. A lot of it I know is blessing. I can't explain why I hear drummers, when I'm out on my travels, I go out and I try to listen to drummers when I'm out on the road touring and stuff, and I hear some amazing guys and I just never ever hear of them. And I don't know why that is. It has to do with work ethic, or I would like to think it's not just the luck of the draw, you know. I know that I've worked hard my whole career. I don't take no for an answer, and I don't have any drug problems. I try to be on time, you know, and things like that, and just do the things that make, that add, contribute to success in any business you would involve yourself with. But I know I've been very blessed to have worked with just some of the most amazing guitar players. Randy Rhoads probably being first and foremost on that list. You know, John Sykes, Steve Vai, Gary Moore. I mean, I could go on and on and on. You know, Vivian Campbell and just some amazing guitar players have been really blessed. Yngwie Malmsteen, you know, I could go on dropping names, you know, for a long time. And I know that it isn't just strictly about because of the way that I play. I know that there are other elements involved in that. And so I've tried to stay on top of those things as well. And I'm no different than any other guy you guys standing out there. I've had a couple of breaks along the way. I take my work very seriously. When I go on stage, I go out there like it's the last opportunity I may ever get, because it could be, you know, you never know. And I feel it's a real blessing and a responsibility to do the best you can do whenever you get out there. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, it requires some diligence, you know. And this is an amazing life. It's an amazing job. So when I get an opportunity to do these things, and if I go out just inspire one young guy or one younger guy that's coming up to do this for a living, man, I jump on it. It gives me a chance to put a little back. When I was growing up, there wasn't anything like this. You know, you couldn't go and hear some guy share some of his, you know, secrets or whatever. You know, it just wasn't available. You had to kind of make them up as you go along, or get it the best way you could. So if I can inspire, you know, any young guy to take up this as a vocation, I always take that opportunity, because it's been an amazing life for me. And it's still going, you know. I'm working as much as I've ever worked. I'm busier as I've ever been. And it makes me really, really particularly feel blessed when I look around and I know I'm still out here just hammering away, you know, and I've seen guys come and go. And so I thank God for that every day. I really do. Thank you very much. You guys are embarrassing me. I'm going to play some more, obviously, but does anybody have any questions about anything, that preferably music or drum related? Some guy asked me the other day what kind of shampoo I use. Preferably drum or music related. Nothing? Yeah. I'm sorry? I guess I asked for it, didn't I? Yes.
So I was wondering if you still get in touch with Pat Travers. It was the first time I ever heard of you.
Do I keep in touch with Pat? Yeah, I saw Pat not too long ago, a few months ago, when I was out with Ted Nugent, and we were going through Florida, and Pat came out and jammed with us. Who were we with? I can't remember who we were out on the road with, but Pat came out and jammed a couple of times with us. I've seen. We're both pretty busy, so you know we don't speak regularly, but not because we don't enjoy speaking to one another. We run across each other through work and stuff. But yeah, I started with Pat. I was with the band before, remain nameless, and I was tied up for a year in lawsuits. When I got unencumbered legally, it was the first thing that I did coming back was with Pat Travers, and I'd never heard of him at the time. Is this feeding back? Thanks. Yeah, but just bring it down a little bit, Kevin. I'll just speak more directly into it. Thanks. Testing. Thanks. Yeah. I met Pat. I just got through with all that legal stuff with another band, and I was in San Francisco working in the studio, just biding my time, trying to find something cool to do, and I got a call from David Hemmings, who I had met when he worked with Ozzy, when I was with another band, with the first European tour I did when I was like 17. I met Ozzy when he was with Black Sabbath. And I was with the band that was supporting him in Europe, and the guy that was taking care of Ozzy, like his gopher, his runner, was a guy by the name of David Hemmings, who later on became a manager, and he became past manager of a band, Judas Priest manager, and a couple of other bands. Well, he passed away since then, but David Hemmings phoned me up, and we hooked up and got together in New York with Pat. We jammed around and said, yeah, let's do it. So, yeah, that's how that started. Pat was from Ottawa, Canada, I think. Yeah. And that's how that thing with Pat started. Yes?
I would like to know how you choke so fast your cymbal.
How I choke the cymbals?
That's one man.
Yeah, I learned to, because I have so many cymbals, and the reason I have so many cymbals is not because I get them for free, even though I do, but I had so many cymbals when I had to buy them, you know. It's weird. I was talking to Sean earlier today, the Yamaha guy, they put this together, and I was talking, I said, when I was growing up, when I was playing, and sometimes I would starve because I'd have to buy sticks and heads of cymbals, and sometimes I would miss meals because I had to buy something, and then when I got to where I could afford to buy anything I wanted, they started giving it to me. So I guess there's some justice in there somewhere. But the reason I started using a lot of cymbals is because I like to play, obviously, with my eyes closed. And when I have all this brass up here, there's no possible place I can swing where I'm not going to hit something. No, I just love cymbals, and I love to have a lot of different places to go, and they all sound different, and they're free. And I just love a lot of cymbals, I don't know why. But because I started using so many cymbals on both sides of my body, when I first started, everything was right in front. So when I wanted to choke a cymbal, I would grab it with my right hand. And as time went by, and the cymbals were over here and way over here, I didn't want to reach across my body to grab this one. I didn't have time, with some of the parts. So I just learned to choke the cymbal with the same hand that I hit it with, That's how that kind of came about. Yeah, one notch. Yeah, thank you. It's like a guillotine, Sorry. Yeah, any more questions? Nothing? Great. I'll see you guys later. It's been really nice. What setup am I using? I have a lot of different drum kits, and depending on the gig, these are 22s. Actually, I have a kit that I haven't had very long. It's a maple shell kit. What are these, Sean? Yeah, what's the shell? Oh, thank you, sir. Birch mahogany. And most of my shells are maple, and I have a carbon fiber kit too. All the shells are carbon fiber, but it depends on I primarily use 24 by 18s, and I use a 12 here, 14, 16, and 18. And I have another configuration, the same configuration with each kit. Whenever I get a kit from Yamaha, I get them to make me 2 sets of bass drums, 22 by 18 and 24 by 18, and 2 sets of toms, because I like to use 10, 12, 14, and 16 as well in the studio, because smaller toms actually sound bigger. But just for live, and I get most rock pickup pizza kind of gigs, so they like to see a massive kit, so I go to bigger sizes. I think these are 22 by 17, these bass drums. I think this is a 12, 13, 16, and 18. Yeah. On the carbon kit that I have, the shells are really, 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 really thin. They're the only ones. You can't go out and buy them, The shells are really thin, and those are 24, and I have 2 sets of toms with those too. 2 sets of bass drums and 2 sets of toms. I really like smaller drums. They actually sound bigger, especially kick drums, I have a little hip gig kit. Yamaha makes this kit. It's called a hip gig kit. It's a 16 by 18-inch bass drum, and it just sounds massive. And it's raised up on a riser, so that the beat will hit in the middle of the drum. You probably see it's called a hip gig, and I think it's a 6 by 5 or 8 by 5 or 10 by 5-inch snare drum, and a 6-inch tom and an 8-inch tom, and they're real shallow depths, and they just sound amazing. Dave Weckle's been playing them a lot. He's using them on gigs, They're so loud and sound really huge. But it's a small, tiny kit. They all fit inside one another. If somebody had a question here, yes, sir.
What's the price of that drum?
Well, how much do these cost, Sean?
About $1,200 for a 5-piece with hardware.
$1,200 for a 5-piece with hardware. How do they sound? They sound good? Yeah. They're fun to play. And it's a nice color of purple if you like that sort of thing. It's a lacquer finish too. It's actually paint. It's a lacquer finish. It's not wrapped with that homosexual plastic. It's really cool. Sorry, somebody had a question over here? Yes, sir.
Can you let me know when you have your next yard sale?
When I have my next yard sale? Well, actually, I don't really sell drums. Sometimes when I use a kit for a while, I have like, I don't know, 5 or 6 kits. And sometimes when I finish with them, they'll auction them off for some cause, you know, like for cancer or for multiple sclerosis or something like that. So I'm not allowed to sell them, I don't think.
Nope.
No. Yes, sir. At what age did I think I wanted to be a drummer? Well, it was really early on. I was probably I started messing around with drumsticks probably at about 9, 10, but I didn't really get serious until about 11 or 12. I messed around with the sticks and I started working on the rudiments, and I'd get cramps in my fingers and I'd just get bored because it seemed like really hard. I didn't think I'd ever get anywhere with it, you know, so I started playing guitar. I played guitar for a while, and then I went back to drums. So early on, about 11 or 12 is when I got pretty serious about it and dedicated, you know, to working at it. Yes, sir. I'm sorry? How I twirl them? I do it 2 different ways. In the right hand, I kind of cheat. Oh, excuse me. It's really hard to do it slow because you depend a lot on the impetus of the stick. And in the right hand, I do a different twirl than I do in the left because I started in the left hand, I started playing with an orthodox grip. So that twirl starts like this, so whenever I twirl in my left hand, I have to switch to this grip just before I twirl. So you have to be kind of quick at it, you know. And it's like this, except it doesn't stay there. It goes to the next finger, and then you reverse it, and what you get is a real nice figure 8. It's really hard to do it slow because you depend on the impetus of the stick, you know, with the twirl. And in light, it looks really cool. It looks like I almost know what I'm doing, you know. And it's a figure 8. And the reason I reverse it, see, if I just go in one direction, I get out on the end of the stick, and I want to stay in the middle of the stick, so I reverse it. And reverse it. And it gives it a nice figure 8 under some nice lights. It makes people actually think, I know what I'm doing. And in this hand, this is the Pee Wee Herman twirl, because I'm playing a lot of 8th notes or 16th notes over here, and I don't have time to do what I can do with my left hand because you're playing backbeat over here, picking up 2 and 4 over here, and a lot of times you can pick up with this hand what you're not doing with this hand when you're twirling. And so it's just your basic, you know, between the first 2 fingers, you know. But do them both together and they're contrasting, you know, so that it looks pretty cool, you know. But it's 2 different sets of twirls, you know. That's actually the first thing that I love to do with a pair of sticks is this. I walk around the house and I couldn't play a note, but I could twirl the sticks, so that's the first thing I learned to do with sticks. And the thing about 2 bass drums as well, it frees your hands up to really make a fool of yourself by twirling sticks. The thing about twirling your sticks is that when you start showing off, you can't drop them. Because when you drop them, people really start making fun of you and they start like flipping boogers on you and stuff like that, you know? So when you start showing off, you have to really make sure that you don't mess up. And with 2 bass drums, you can cover some of the left-hand stuff, you know, and it allows you some time to get some visual stuff in. I know, without a shadow of a doubt, that a good part of my career, or the longevity of my career, apart from some of the other things I mentioned earlier about not taking no for an answer and being a responsible business person and not being a drug addict. Being a drug addict is a 24-hour-a-day job, and being a professional drummer is a 24-hour-a-day job. So if you're trying to do both, one of them is going to suffer, you know. You're going to have to, either your drug addiction is going to suffer or your drumming is going to suffer. So I've tried to take good care of myself physically. It's a very physical endeavor. But one of the things about 2 bass drums, and I found some of the things that I felt have contributed to my success in the genre of music that I inhabit, which, like I mentioned earlier, is notorious for cutting a career brutally short. I mean, if you look at a world-class elite athlete, the average career length is about 6 or 7 years. A rock drummer a drummer in my genre of music is even much shorter than that. So I feel very blessed to be around. But I feel a good part of that is because I've tried to cover some of the other aspects of our instrument. It's a very physical instrument, and it really lends itself to some visual aspects. We're in show business. It's not just the music business anymore. When video came out, you couldn't get fat and ugly and sit back there on your keister and just pick your nose and just play. You had to kind of look like you knew what you were doing as well, So in situations when I come to town and I'm playing in a big venue, I'll play to those people back in the nosebleed section. When you're in a 15,000 seater, there are people so far back, and I'll pick someone out. They don't even know, but I'll pick someone out way back there that I can barely see, and I'll try to play to those people, and try to be overly demonstrative. It's kind of like theater. The makeup is exaggerated, and their moves are exaggerated, and they're trying to convey an emotion or something to people that are not in their immediate vicinity, and that's what I've always tried to do visually on the drums. And we're so blessed to have such a physical instrument. Just think how bored a keyboard player. He's got this big old belly, and he moves his fingers like this, and he somehow calls that work. I don't get it, So we have an instrument that lends itself to all these great things, so you can really be a great ham if you have any showmanship in your body at all. I try to encourage you, never at the expense of the groove and the time. You have to cover all that stuff. This is just icing on the cake. So this is something, even though that's the first thing I learned to do with sticks, I put that away when I was trying to get serious, And I got some flack when I first came out, all show and no go and all that kind of stuff, but it went in the ear and out the out ear, and I just kept on, and I made sure that I was making the sound to back it up, and I was trying to give people a little more than just, I go in clubs and I see guys and they're like really slamming, but they look like court stenographers or something, And all they have to do is just put a little personality, as much personality in their visual presentation. It is work, it requires some diligence, but I think you sell yourself short if you don't utilize some of the physical, visual aspects of our instrument, And that's another reason I went with more cymbals and a bigger kit. It's just more places to go. It gives you more things to do as a drummer. You don't get bored so quickly, and it gives people that are listening and seeing you, show business, somewhere else, something to do. If you can get people through their ears and through their eyes at the same time, if you can kind of grab by the scruff of the neck and snatch them into what you're doing through the ears and the eyes, you get them for a long time, They remember you. The only problem is the next time you come to town, you have to be a little better, and the next time you come to town, you have to be a little better, and the next time you come to town, you have to be a little better still. So it's challenging, but it's very exciting. And as long as your motives are in the right place, you're not doing it for money or chicks or drugs or whatever. If you're doing it for the love of the instrument, you always have a hunger to come back and do better, All my itineraries, I make notes in them after a gig, and I say, well, I really sucked tonight. I was played with a lisp. I was terrible tonight, so I have to make sure that when I come back to that city that I make up for it. I always try my best, but sometimes you get the bear, and sometimes the bear gets you. So in all my itineraries, I do notes. So when I go through my list, I get on my laptop and I see my comments that I made from the gig that I played the last time I was in Montreal or Quebec or wherever I was, And so I have a little reference point. So I always try my best, but when you can refer back to the last time you were in a city and say, I really sucked there, so I have to really make up for that because I don't want to let them down twice in a row, You have an obligation and a responsibility. With much blessing comes much responsibility. Yes. Do I warm up very long before I play? I like to. I'm no spring chicken. I've been doing this for a long time, and thank God I'm still healthy. I don't have any carpal tunnel or anything like that. So I've always warmed up and I've always stretched before I play. I like to get a sweat going, on a practice kit backstage. Sometimes you don't always have that luxury. It depends on the budget of the tour. I have gone on stage cold, and it's not my favorite thing to do for whatever reason you get to a gig late, because of logistics or something like that, flights are late or whatever, I have gone on stage cold, and if you have a real physical style like I had, it just doesn't work. Once when I was out with Ozzy, I tore a little muscle in my sternum. I came straight, we were late, came right in the back of the gig, jumped out of the car, and went right on stage just out of really, really cold weather. I tore a little muscle. I recently tore my rotator cuff in my left shoulder. That wasn't from going on cold, that was from a bone spur, and I'm just coming off of that. I had to have surgery on it. That's the only injury that I've ever had that made me have to cancel work. I had to take 6 months off, and that happened in March. So. Yeah, tendonitis.
trying to give as much fastness as I can get.
Yeah, to maintain speed without without hurting yourself, warming up, stretching and warming up. Well, there's no rocket science. A lot of it has to do with genetics. I have a friend who's a great drummer, but he's so plagued with tendonitis, and it's not because he doesn't stretch or exercise or do the right things. He takes really good care of his body, but he has a genetic predisposition. His father had it, and his grandfather. I thank God that I don't have any of those things, you know. The only thing you can do is warm up. Like I said, I try to play for half an hour or 45 minutes. I don't want to go out on stage with my tongue hanging out, you know. You need to save a little for the show. But I try to get a good sweat and warm up really good before. And then when you go out there, when the first downbeat, you're blazing. You don't have to like slowly build up to it. You know, I have friends that are some really famous drummer friends that, you know, I'm not going to mention any names, but they just, you know, they go for weeks without touching their sticks. I mean, I can't do that. I have to stay on top of it, you know. My style requires that I play regularly and I spend a lot of time behind the kit. And I love playing, so it's not a problem for me. I have friends that take weeks and months off. When the doctor, when I had my rotator cuff, when I went to the doctor with that and they did the MRI and he said you have a massive bone spur in your shoulder and a full thickness rotator cuff tear. 5 days before the last tour, I went around the kit. This was in March. I went around the kit and my arm just stopped. I saw Elvis. I mean, it really hurt. And my shoulder had been bothering me, but I thought it's just because I've been working so much. I've been working for like 3 years straight, going from one tour to the album to two, you know, because I freelance and I work with a lot of different bands or musicians and stuff. And so as a result of that, I don't get a lot of time off, and so I thought it was just because I was working so much. I had a lot of pain in my left shoulder. I could play, I could get around it, but I had to warm up a lot longer, and it would be really, really, really sore the next day. And so about 5 days before the end of the last tour that I did, I went around the kit and it just stopped. I had 5 shows to do, and I was tortured to get to do those 5 shows. And when I got home, well, that night when it happened, it was in Denver, Colorado. I went to the hospital, and they x-rayed my shoulder, and they said, we see nothing wrong in your shoulder. The x-ray would show. And I had it x-rayed before by my doctor, and he didn't see anything. When I got home to Santa Barbara, I live in Santa Barbara, California, and I went to my doctor and I had an MRI, and they found a massive bone spur and a full thickness rotator cuff tear. And the only way they fix that is surgically, because my arm, I couldn't do anything. The only thing I could do was, I had pain in my left shoulder, and it was caused from the bone spur. I raced bicycles when I was growing up. I still do a lot of cycling, but I crashed a lot on my left shoulder, and that's probably what caused the bone spur. And what happened was, when you do a lot of drumming, you know, it's arm intensive. So whenever your hand is above your shoulder, you have a tendency to pinch the ligaments. And so there was a bone spur in there, and every time I raised my shoulder, my rotator cuff would go across that sharp bone spur like that. And pretty soon, well, after years, the doctor said I probably had it for years. It severed the rotator cuff. And it was terrible. And I'd never gone for more than a week or so without playing drums. And the doctor says, you can't touch drumsticks for 3 months. You can't play for 6 months. And I said, oh my, yeah, I got scared, you know. I said, oh man, what am I going to do? And I had to phone and I had to cancel so much work. So I know what you mean. That's the only thing that I've ever had, thank God, in my whole career. It's caused me to have to cancel work. Excuse me. Sorry, I got to turn it off. Yeah, cramps. Just play, man, play. Spend hours. I spend hours, you know. I get in my rehearsal room and I don't even watch a clock. I come out there, I go in after breakfast. I go in early in the morning, like 7:30 or 8 o'clock when I'm at home. And I come out and it's midday, and I feel like I've been in there for 15 minutes. I'm soaking wet, you know, but I had a blast. I had a great workout, you know. Training, it's all training, you know. If someone says, I say, let's have a show of hands of who go out and run a 26-mile marathon tomorrow. Well, not many people could be unless they've been training for it, you know. You have to train your body to do all the things that you're asking it to do. If you have a predisposition for yeah, oh yeah, that's right. Well, you know what to do. I don't have tendonitis, so I don't have any first-hand experience, you know. And I use a lot of my arm, and I play really far away from the drum, and I do silly things that you know, a lot of drummers don't do, and that's what I like. That's what I get off on. I like really digging into the drum, you know, and you know, I have to change the heads of your show and stuff like that, but that's cool, you know. I like to really dig in. Yeah. Somebody had a question. Yes, sir.
Do you drum with actual notes, like With the tuner?
Do I tune my drums to actual notes? On my kit, we just threw these head with this kit. We didn't have time to tune these and stuff. On my kit, I don't tune them to the first. I start with the first tom. I don't tune it to any particular note. I just tune it to a note that it's got some sustain.
But you feel it.
Well, yeah, I like the way it feels. I need it to be high enough, so, and I just from doing it out years, I know where it needs to be. And then once I get that note, I'll find out what that note is, and I'll tune in the remaining 3 toms to descending fourths. Do, 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 to descending fourths.
So would you actually suggest some...
I don't have any particular note because I'll arrive, depending on the size of the drum, I'll arrive at a different note at different times. But I tune the bottom head to the same pitch, and of course you want the lugs as even as you can get them all the way around, you know.
Like high or low?
I use sometimes on a bigger drum, I'll tune the bottom head a little higher. That way I can still get the feel that I like. I like some rebound, but I like a good thud, but with a little bit of sustain. So it's kind of a black art. There are no absolutes. It depends on the size of the drum. It depends on what heads. I use different heads on different drum kits too. You know, it's thicker heads. Yeah. So it's really nothing, no absolutes. It's kind of a black art. How do you tune the drums? But that's what I do. I start with a note that I like, with the top head, with no head on the bottom. And then I find a note that I like, I'll put the bottom head on and I'll tune it to that exact note. I'll find out what that note is or near enough to it, and I'll tune the other remaining 3 drums to a descending fourths. Do, 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 do. 3 blind one, do, 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 do. You know? Somebody had another question? Yes, sir. One more time? How do I sit to avoid back problems? I don't do it in any conscious way. I've just always sat low. When I first started playing, I didn't have a drum stool, so I sat on a milk crate, and it was really, really, really low. And I'd rather spend the money on drumsticks and heads at the time than go out and spend the money for a drum stool. So I sat on a milk crate with a towel on it for years, you know. And it's really, really low. And as a matter of fact, the first stool that I got wouldn't go as low as the milk crate, so I had to cut the thing off so it would go lower, you know. I've always sat low. I don't know if it's to any particular advantage, but it's just how I've always played. I play with my snare drum flat. I don't tilt it. I play with a little bit of a crook in mine, you know, so I have some wrist action, you know. But as you see, I rim shot the snare drum a lot. I like to hit it really, really hard. You know, that the snare head is already history, you know, after, half an hour of music, you know. With lower back pain, I do a lot of cycling, a lot of bicycling. I do about 250 miles a week on my bicycle. And if you do a lot of climbing on a bicycle, that's the best thing in the world to strengthen your lower back. I do a lot of sit-ups and things like that. I don't lift weights. I do a lot of sit-ups and I do stretches and things like that. But most of the strength in my back comes from bicycling, from doing a lot of hill climbing on my road bike. That really, really helps your lower back. Because when I get on a bike, if I haven't ridden for a week or so, I always feel it in my lower back when you're climbing. It stabilizes everything on the saddle. With 2 bass drums, it's a lot more important because you have to realize, just like a thoroughbred horse, I'm not likening myself to a thoroughbred horse by any stretch of the imagination, but when you're using 2 bass drums, 1 foot is off the ground all the time. If you're alternating, if you're single strokes. Now, if you're playing hi-hat, even if you're playing 8 notes on the hi-hat, you still, when you go around the field, you'll plant that hi-hat foot, so you have a planted foot. When you're using 2 bass drums and you're counterpointing, you're single stroking, you have only one foot on the ground at a time, so your center of gravity becomes really important, especially when you start going all around the kit, and you want to have a lot of continuity and solidity no matter where you go on the kit with 1 foot off the ground. Only 1 foot on the ground. And it's only there for a 16th note, you know? So balance and your lower back becomes really, really important. I've been told by people that sit behind me that my back is really straight. I don't know. It's not something that I concentrate or consciously make note of. I don't hunker over the drum. I sit really far back. My snare drum is far away from sit pretty far away from the drums. And I play way out on the end of the stick, rather than choking up. And Fred Gruber, says to play. If I played like that, I would be speaking with a lisp in 8 bars. I play right on the end of the stick. I like to use all the stick. It's a 17-inch stick. It's equivalent to a Pro Mark 2S. And that's how I like to play. I like to have my stuff pretty far away from me. People sit behind my kit and say, geez, how do you reach this, Well, I use a 17-inch stick and I play right on the end of it. And I don't want to play on this part of the stick. I want to play where the meat is, So that's where I play on the stick. So what works for me may not work for you. I sit really low, my pedals are really loose, very, very strong, sprung, and I have the beaters way far back and all the way up. You know, Neil Peart sat down behind my kit and he couldn't play it. I sat down behind his kit and couldn't play it. His beaters are really close to the head, real tightly sprung, and only about this far up on the shelf. My beaters are all the way up, and I use wooden beaters, which are heavier, you know. And you just get accustomed to that resistance. I can play faster with a heavier stick than I can with a lighter stick. I like that resistance. I can't play with a smaller stick. I've gone to a hickory stick from an oak stick in an effort to try to get a little bit better sound out of the drums because I play so hard. I have a tendency to overplay through the drum and kind of, I don't know, choke the drum out. You know, I learned that in the studio that I just play too hard sometimes. And I have dynamics in my playing. I mean, my dynamics aren't like Dave Weckles, you know. It'd be tough for me to play with a stand-up bass and a pianist, you know. They would have me assassinated after the first night, you know. I play with dynamics, but my dynamics are a little different than some other drummers, you know. All these things work really great for me in the genre of music that I play. My vocabulary is not like a Dave Weckl or a Vinnie Colaiuta. I don't go from a reggae session to a rock session to a progressive jazz section. My power band is very narrow. And I'm just very lucky that I'm able to work within a genre of music that I've been able to sustain myself quite comfortably for my whole career, you know. I advise guys to steep themselves in other styles of music. If you listen to like Mitch Mitchell with Hendrix, this guy would have had a serious impact on me. I played nothing like Mitch Mitchell, but what Mitch Mitchell brought to Hendrix was something that made it unique and different. He was a big band drummer, and then all of a sudden he's playing Crosstown Traffic and the tunes that he played, Manic Depression, all those tunes. This is a big band drummer playing Jimi Hendrix music. Can you imagine what Mitch Mitchell thought the first time Hendrix played Manic Depression? Wow. I mean, it would have blown my mind. Can you imagine how inspiring that was to Mitch Mitchell? Mitch Mitchell being a big band drummer, he brought some of those sensitivities to that outside Hendrix guitar playing. John Bonham was a funk drummer, is a funk drummer. The sensitivities that he brought to good times, bad times, and all those different riffs. Can you imagine how John Bonham, how excited he got the first time he heard Good Times, Bad Times, or oh man, I would have shit my pants, excuse my French. I mean, can you imagine how inspiring? So John Bonham brought these funk sensibilities to outside progressive blues rock music, you know. Stuart Copeland, what he did with the Police, that reggae vibe and all the Police music, Stuart Copeland's responsible for all that. So you had this reggae vibe coming in with a mixture of Sting's amazing pop vocals and guitar players, kind of, I don't know, almost new age kind of guitar playing, and the mixture of those things made it bigger than the individual parts, made it special and unique and different. And so, those are the things that struck me when I was growing up. It wasn't just the drum parts that Mitchell was playing. I could sit down and play him after I heard him a couple of times. But the value of his creativity and the mixing of those different elements made it special, new, and unique, and made it so much cooler than any of the individual parts, you know. And so even though I'm kind of known as like an outside solo drummer for my solos, silly solos and stuff, the most gratifying aspect of being a drummer to me is playing with other instruments and doing the band thing, actually creating music. I'll take a creative drummer, a guy that may not have the real killer techniques and the real high-end chops, over a PIT guy any day of the week. I go to PIT, I hear some amazing physical accomplishment, but I don't hear a lot of creativity. I hear guys playing what someone else, what they've heard someone else play, or what someone else has written out for them to play. And that in itself is a real talent, to be able to sight read that kind of stuff. But to me, real value in any instrument is being able to express some creativity. God put us here to express His glory and stuff, and if you can do that, if you can express yourself, I'll take a creative drummer over a technical drummer any day of the week. That's not to say that they're mutually exclusive. I like to hear guys, you know, like Manu Katché. He's got amazing technique and he's so creative. Vinnie Colaiuta, amazing technique, so creative, you know. Other guys come to mind. Dean Castronovo in a rock vibe. You know, he's a good progressive drummer. He's got amazing chops and he's got a lot of dexterity. He's got a lot of vibe and a lot of attitude. He digs in and plays music with hair on it, you know. I really like that. So they're not mutually exclusive. But if I hear, a lot of times I hear drummers that don't have very good technique, but I hear them play things that I've never heard anybody else play. That really amazes me. And so I put a lot of value on originality and creativity. It's an amazing aspect of our instrument. So I encourage guys to start experimenting with your own thing. Get your rudiments behind you, and use them on the kit in a way that's unique and to yourself. It'll separate you from the other drummers. When you get a chance to bring yourself to the front of the stage by doing, little things that will bring people's focus to you, do it. Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa, those guys were the first people to bring the drums to the front of the stage, and the reason they did is because they had personality in their playing. They didn't just have technique. Buddy Rich couldn't read a note of music. He was essentially self-taught. But he stood up there, he was put on this planet to be a creative drummer. Boy, he didn't let me down. And as time went by, he got better and better and better. He didn't get slower and slower and slower. The older he got, the faster he got. Why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't I be able to keep getting better and better and better? Why shouldn't you? As time goes by, you should be getting a little better and a little better, a little faster. And speed isn't everything, John Bonham had a real economy in his style. It's not what he played, it's what he didn't play. And where he laid out the bar line, or across the bar line, or where he would leave a beat out that a 16th note that John Paul Jones would pick up on the bass, or Robert Plant would intermingle with a vocal line and a counterpoint, made it so much bigger than the individual parts. You take the individual John Bonham drum parts and dissect them, they're all very simple and elementary. But if you listen to them along with all the other parts, it becomes amazingly complex. But just to a layperson, listen to the intro rock and roll. That's really simple to play, but lay people, you don't have to be a drummer to get off on it. If I can play something on the drums that's simple but unique, I'll do that any day of the week over something with a lot of notes in it. It's more challenging to come up with something that's creative and simple than to come up with something that's creative and complex. If you can come up with something that's creative and simple, you can touch non-drummers, touch a lot of people. And I think that's the idea of communication. Expressing an emotion or something, and even though our instrument it's not tuned, it's not chromatic, it doesn't mean you can't express an emotion on it. That's what I always try to do is get my emotions out. If I go a couple of days without playing, then I get all twitchy, and I start wanting to hit people that are a lot bigger than I am, and I get in all kinds of trouble. Again, you guys for coming out. I really appreciate you taking the time and the effort. Again, I thank Yamaha and Zildjian, ProMark, and Sean Brown and Yamaha for putting this together. I really very much appreciate it. And I thank you again for coming out and for putting up with me through this time. I thank my Lord Jesus, and God bless you.
Call me Aldridge! The legend.